Growing up in the quiet town of Willow Creek, I always felt a strange connection to the old Victorian house at the end of Maple Street. The house had been abandoned for as long as anyone could remember, its once grand facade now faded and overgrown with ivy. Locals whispered about the house, saying it was haunted by the spirits of its former inhabitants. Despite the eerie tales, I found myself inexplicably drawn to the mysterious mansion. One autumn afternoon, curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to explore the house. The front door was slightly ajar, as if inviting me in. I pushed it open and stepped inside, the air thick with dust and the scent of old wood. The grand entrance hall was dimly lit, the sunlight filtering through the dirty windows casting eerie shadows on the walls. As I ventured deeper into the house, I noticed that many of the rooms were still furnished, as if the inhabitants had simply vanished one day. The furniture was covered in a thick layer of dust, and the air was heavy with the weight of time. I explored the living room, the dining room, and even the kitchen, each room more eerie than the last. It was in the upstairs bedroom that I found the mirror. It was a large, ornate piece, its frame intricately carved with vines and flowers. The glass was surprisingly clean, reflecting my image with crystal clarity. I couldn't help but stare at my reflection, feeling a strange sense of unease. Suddenly, I noticed something peculiar. My reflection seemed to be moving independently of me. I blinked, thinking it was a trick of the light, but the reflection continued to move. It smiled, a cold and unsettling grin that sent a chill down my spine. I stumbled backward, my heart pounding. The reflection reached out, its hand pressing against the glass as if trying to break through. I turned and ran, my footsteps echoing through the empty house. I didn't stop until I was outside, gasping for breath in the cool autumn air. That night I couldn't sleep. The image of the mirror and the eerie reflection haunted my dreams. I tossed and turned, my mind racing with questions. What had I seen in the mirror? Was it a ghost, a spirit, or something more sinister? Determined to find answers, I returned to the house the next day. The mirror was still there, its glass reflecting my image once more. This time, I approached it cautiously, my heart pounding in my chest. I reached out, my hand trembling as I touched the glass. Suddenly, the reflection changed. It was no longer my image staring back at me, but a stranger, a young woman with long, dark hair and piercing blue eyes. She wore a Victorian-era dress, and her expression was one of sadness and longing. "Who are you?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. The woman in the mirror seemed to hear me. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Instead, she reached out, her hand pressing against the glass as if trying to touch mine. I felt a cold chill run through me, and I quickly pulled my hand away. The woman in the mirror disappeared, and my reflection returned. I stood there, staring at the mirror, my mind racing with questions. Who was the woman in the mirror? What did she want? And why had she appeared to me? In the days that followed, I became obsessed with the mirror and the mysterious woman. I spent hours in the house, staring at the mirror, hoping to see her again. But she never reappeared. The mirror remained silent, reflecting only my image. One evening, as I sat in the bedroom, I heard a faint whisper. It was a soft, ethereal voice, calling my name. I turned, but there was no one there. The whisper came again, this time louder, more insistent. I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized the voice was coming from the mirror. I approached the mirror cautiously, my heart pounding. The woman in the mirror reappeared, her eyes filled with a mix of sadness and desperation. She reached out, her hand pressing against the glass once more. This time, I didn't pull away. I reached out, my hand touching the glass, and I felt a cold electric shock run through me. Suddenly, I was no longer in the bedroom. I was standing in a different room, a grand ballroom filled with people in Victorian-era clothing. The room was brightly lit, the chandeliers casting a warm glow on the dancers below. I looked around, my eyes wide with wonder, and I saw the woman from the mirror. She was standing by the window, her eyes filled with tears. I approached her cautiously, my heart pounding. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The woman turned to face me, her eyes filled with a mix of sadness and relief. "I am Elizabeth," she said, her voice soft and melodic. "I have been waiting for you." Elizabeth explained that she had lived in the house over a century ago. She had been a young woman, full of life and dreams, but her life had been cut short by a tragic accident. She had been trapped in the mirror ever since, unable to move on, unable to find peace. "Why me?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Why did you appear to me?" Elizabeth smiled softly. "You are the first person to see me, to hear me. You are the one who can set me free." I felt a lump form in my throat. "How?" I asked, my voice choked with emotion. Elizabeth reached out, her hand gentle as it touched my cheek. "You must find my locket," she said. "It is hidden somewhere in the house. Once you find it, you must place it in the mirror. Only then will I be free." I nodded, my mind racing with questions. "I will find it," I promised. "I will set you free." The ballroom faded away, and I was back in the bedroom, standing in front of the mirror. The woman in the mirror disappeared, and my reflection returned. I took a deep breath, my heart filled with a newfound determination. I had to find Elizabeth's locket, and I had to set her free. In the days that followed, I searched the house from top to bottom. I looked in every room, every nook and cranny, but the locket remained elusive. I began to doubt myself, to wonder if I was truly the one who could set Elizabeth free. But I refused to give up. I continued my search, my determination unwavering. And then, one day, as I was searching the attic, I found it. A small, heart-shaped locket, its gold chain tarnished with age. I opened it, and inside was a tiny portrait of Elizabeth, her eyes filled with love and longing. With the locket in hand, I returned to the bedroom. I approached the mirror, my heart pounding. I reached out, my hand trembling as I placed the locket in the mirror. Suddenly, the mirror began to glow, its glass shimmering with a soft, ethereal light. The woman in the mirror reappeared, her eyes filled with gratitude and relief. She reached out, her hand touching the glass, and I felt a warm, gentle touch on my cheek. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice soft and melodic. The mirror's glow intensified, and suddenly, Elizabeth was standing in front of me, her form solid and real. She smiled, her eyes filled with tears of joy. "You have set me free," she said, her voice choked with emotion. I felt a lump form in my throat. "What happens now?" I asked, my voice trembling. Elizabeth reached out, her hand gentle as it touched my cheek. "I must go," she said, "but I will never forget you. You have given me the greatest gift of all, freedom." With a final, gentle touch, Elizabeth faded away, leaving me alone in the bedroom. The mirror's glow dimmed, and the room grew dark once more. I took a deep breath, my heart filled with a mix of sadness and relief. I had set Elizabeth free, and I had found a sense of peace within myself. In the days that followed, I returned to my normal life, but the memory of Elizabeth and the mirror lingered in my mind. The house at the end of Maple Street remained a constant presence, a reminder of the mysterious and the unknown. And so, the house stood, its secrets hidden within its walls, its past a dark enigma that would forever remain a mystery. The mirror's reflection had shown me a glimpse into the unknown, a tale of the past that would haunt me for the rest of my days. Yet, as I looked back on my experience, I couldn't help but wonder, what other secrets did the house hold? What other mysteries lay hidden within its walls? The house at the end of Maple Street would forever remain a dark enigma,